Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Big hello to all the new subscribers. If you remember, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos ago, I made a little video of what I called a little mystery motor. A couple people, I only showed parts of, well, I showed the power head. I didn't show the hood on it, the bonnet. And from my neck of the woods, it's pretty rare outboard. I've seen like about 2 or 3 in 20 years. But this one was salvageable. The other ones, I kept them. I tore them down, put them in boxes, labeled them. And one of the guys that gave me one of those engines, and this was well over a decade ago, he had spare parts with it. And that's the only reason I'm messing with this one I got now. But I'm going to show you some more of this little mystery motor. Some people, like I said, as soon as they saw it, they knew what it was instantly. But the engine is even more of a mystery, and what I mean by that is mechanically. I did finally find online some parts breakdown of it, and I needed them because apparently the engines, like I said, I think overall there wasn't a whole lot produced, but so the manual's even harder to find than parts for it. But I got this thing and it came apart hard. I mean, from what I understand and talking to the fella I got this engine from, he purchased it new around 30 years ago. Used it and threw it in an old shed behind his house, and that's where it's sat for the last 2+ decades. So I started into trying to get this thing apart, and I've been working on this engine for over a month getting it apart. That's how slow I had to go, and even taking that amount of time, there was damage getting it apart. I don't think it's anything that's not repairable. Luckily, I saved those parts from the 2 I got over 10+ years ago, and one of those parts I had, and then when that fella who brought me one many years ago, like I said, he had some parts still in a box with it, and they fit this motor I'm doing now, and that's the only reason I even attempted to bother with it. I thought it's kind of cool, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to show you some more parts on this thing. I've got the engine completely tore down, and some really unique things about it. When I say this, people that's messed with them are going to know probably right off the bat what it is. This engine has a dual water pump. In other words, it has 2 impellers, a bottom and a top impeller. So that should tell some people what it is if they've messed with them at all. And I'll show you some of the stuff here, and some of the stuff I broke. So I'm going to shake you a little bit and take you over here. Alrighty, there's the pieces parts of it. Here's the drive shaft, and as you can see, there's 2 impeller pins there. So, and that's because with this water pump set up, here's water pickup tube number 1. As you can see, the water pump housing has 2 holes, and I labeled them. The top one is labeled. This is the bottom section of the dual water pump, and you can see the 2 water tube pickups. There's water tube number 1, and then here's water tube number 2. And like I said, this thing was salty. You can see the plate that goes in the middle of the 2 water pump pieces is kind of a little bit dented and warped and stuff. And you can see it blocks one hole so that this goes to the power head, and the other water tube goes to something else, and I'll show you that in a while. But when I took the top, so the plate goes something like so, and then there's the top, and now this water pump here is getting fed, or water tube, and this one, or vice versa. Actually, yeah, this one's blocked off, so it's working off the, it says, it's really pitted, but it says top right there. So this one's getting fed through this tube, and that one's getting fed from the other tube. You can see it's got a hole, so it can come all the way up from the bottom water pump or impeller up through this and up to what it does, and then the top one has a plate there, so it feeds water out of that up to that tube. All right, and like I said, there was damage on this top piece. Getting it apart, this broke, but luckily I had this one. There's what impeller, the bottom impeller looked like. You can see that's just roached, and that's the way it came apart. And here's a grommet for one of the water tubes, and you can see it's barely open at all. There's water pump impeller number 2. So one impeller goes in there, then a plate, then the other impeller goes in there. So it's got a dual impeller system that feeds 2 different water pickup tubes, and then in between that plate there's the 2 drive pins for the drive shaft, and there's the other water tube. And here's the shift rod cover. This bolts into there, or bolts onto there like that, and then this holds the shift rod. And one of those 2, I think it was this one, was for the shift rod, and it's roached. I had a real pickle of a time getting this rear bolt that holds all the water pumps pieces and sections together, but I finally worked it out of there without damaging anything. So I'm getting it, I disassembled it this far just to get as much of the salt. You can see all this white powdery yuck here, and I'm slowly getting that out of there. But I've taken this thing all the way down as far as I can really take it, and I got it apart well enough that I think I'm going to be able to get it back together. So for those of you who are familiar with the engine, you'll know right off, just because of that dual water pump system, you'll know what it is. But some people didn't. They were curious about it, and so when was the last time you pulled an outboard lower off and found 2 water pump impellers in there? So that's what I'm dealing with, plus age. There's a lot of other damage to the motor that I'm trying to repair with the engine, and it also has a very complex tiller system. Throttle, slant bar tiller, slant bar gear shift, sort of. So I'm not going to really name the engine until I get it all put back together and it's hopefully working. That still remains to be seen yet. This is a booger of an outboard to work on. Okay, here's the throttle system. It's very interesting. Some nylon pieces. Put that radio down.
yeah, really. I'm starting to get the lower unit. Got everything loose down there. And so I've got to get the shift rod out of there. But this shift, dual shift lever tiller shift, it's kind of a mystery to me, but it's neat. There's a little piece and that lug goes in that piece of nylon. Then that helicoil or helix goes all in there. With another slotted rod. So main reason I took this all apart, and it's not really as bad as I thought it would be, because I looked up under here and it's a little green, corroded and rusty, but I just want to clean everything up, because I intend to disassemble most of this motor and get it lubed up, cleaned up, and as much age and corrosion out of it as I can. So let me get this all lubed up and kind of back together. But I just wanted to film this tiller shift mechanism. It has both a shift handle and a tiller shift mechanism all tied into one. So interesting. Keep getting things apart. Okay, there's the Helix, all clean and anti-seized. Oh, get a better shot. And that's how it goes. Very interesting. Yeah. And this cover just snaps on. I got everything all anti-seize. Everything should be nice and slippery. So, put the 3 screws back in and continue the disassembly with the lower, probably the power head. I don't know where I'll go next. We'll see. Here's what I will tell you about this engine. This engine is not for the faint of heart, and this engine is not for the newcomer purchasing an outboard and thinking they're just going to run home and put an impeller in it, especially if it's been used in salt water. This is a very, in my opinion, complex little motor. This is what I had to disassemble to get the lower unit off to get to the dual water pump. Yes, an upper water pump with impeller and a lower water pump with impeller. One pickup tube goes to the power head, and then the other pickup tube stabs in here, which is this one right here, which goes to the onboard bilge pump, which is right there. Twin pickup tubes. The shift rod comes apart in the very, very, very foot of the motor via that clip there. Middle section, 4 double-ended bolts, curved shift rod, first water tube, second water tube, first water pump chamber and impeller, or upper water pump and impeller, second water portion of the water pump housing and impeller, and I haven't even taken this apart yet. So if it's been used in salt water, this one came apart very hard. And I ain't even close to getting there. You have to pull the pinion gear out and everything, and this bronze bushing that goes up in here. Very complex little motor, that's for sure. Getting there.
Keep watching. I'll have more videos on this thing from time to time as I make progress with it. So thanks for watching.